You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
So my name's Levi Benner. I've been part of this local for 17 years. I've been a union rep for 4 or 5 now. I'm my trades representative. I was part of the strike committee. Sometimes I fill in for grievance committee, but that's about it. I'm Department 50, which is structural fabricators.
And so just tell us about these contract negotiations. You know, can you tell us, like, what led up to using the strike tool that's kind of generally seen as kind of a last resort. So what was it that was so that led up to using that tool being necessary?
In my opinion, the company we're negotiating with, they just tried to attack us from all angles. They didn't really entertain any of our proposals. Anytime they gave us a proposal and we, modify it and hand it back to them, they just kind of flick it back across the table and they're like, no, what we gave you is what we want. They wanted to attack our seniority and take that away from us. They wanted to give away a lot of our jobs to subcontractors from out of state. It really didn't have nothing to do with the wage increases. The offer was insulting in my opinion, but the reason we went on strike had nothing to do with that. It was mostly the seniority attacks and the subcontracting were the two big issues, and they didn't want to back off on it. And we have a very young membership at our local. We have a lot of new, younger guys, and that generation to me, that generation is looking for a reason to rebel, and the company gave it to them. So they grouped together and they said, fuck that. And they voted to go on strike. We counted them out, but they surprised everybody.
Apparently the company counted them out as well, and we're in the same situation at our local, where you've got a lot of old hands and a lot of new hands, and the company just makes that assumption a lot of times that the new hands are starving, they've got young families, they got a lot of payments going on, and they're going to be a yes vote one way or the other. But it sounds like they piss off enough people up there and of course, I know it's Bath, what Bath Ironworks or Bath. But what a lot of people don't know is that's General Dynamics, which is probably one of the most anti-union, terrible companies, in the nation.
That's something that you run across a lot, like you were talking about, Levi. The young folks, the general opinion as far as labor politics goes is that they're not educated and they're often not willing to strike. They don't know anything about these tools that the brothers and sisters that came before us in the labor movement made great use of, and to a lot of success. And apparently General Dynamics and even some of the old guard in your local thought that that's how it was going to be. That's how it was going to be at Local S6. Do you think that the young folks at Local S6, do you think they're just a particularly militant group of folks, or do you think that this may be illustrative of a greater shift in this younger generation of unionists?
I feel like we've been struggling with the solidarity part of the union for a while here. We've been thinking about ways to strengthen it, and it's been talked about for a while. We haven't really taken any action towards it, and I think the company taking a jab at us like that, they built that for us like within one day, and we've been trying for a couple of years to do it. So, and they were looking for a reason to fight back, but we need to educate them as much as we can on why we did that. And you know, I think a lot of them get it now, but you need to continue doing it. You know what I mean? Like we won this fight. In my opinion, we won, and we need to celebrate that, and we need to explain to these guys, you know, what we just did. They should be proud of themselves, and you know, everybody in the country is watching us. So all the other locals, they should be spreading that story too. Look what they did. They fought back and they won.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I mean, one of the things is that the best union organizer is a bad boss, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And they proved that.
Right. Yeah, I really hope that this is that it's illustrative of a bigger change, and I think that we have reason to believe that because you know, since maybe 2014 or something, you know, the labor movement has been much more willing to use the strike, it seems, than in maybe the 20 years prior, starting with the teachers' strikes. And we've seen a wave of unionization in the media industry. We've seen a wave of unionization in the nonprofit sector, like at ACLU, at the SPLC here in Alabama, just won their union election. And you know, folks in all sorts of industries. The CWA just had a huge strike in 2018, I believe it was, in the Southeast. The Southeast was the only place that struck. And so, you know, I think we have reason to believe that this is, that these strikes and your strike are illustrative of a bigger change in the labor movement and hopefully in the younger generation of the labor movement. Can you talk a little bit more about the subcontractors and the seniority? Like, what does it mean that y'all have seniority now, and what is that can you lay out like what those perks in your contract are, and what specifically they were trying to take away, and what specifically they were trying to do with the subcontractors? Because I think that those aren't immediately like sexy words, right? You're talking about seniority and subcontracting. That may the importance of those things, I think, may kind of get lost in the mix. So if you could expand on that a little bit.
I mean, seniority is pretty much everything here. You know, what shift you're working on, you know, who gets, you know, you get the rights to everything else before people lower than you. So let's say I like working first shift. I've done them all. When I didn't have a lot of seniority, I was forced onto second shift and third shift. And, you know, it wasn't really a desirable thing for me. But now that I've been here 17 years, I get to pretty much pick where I want to work, and that's first shift. And the company wanted the ability to say, hey, I need you on third because we just hired a bunch of people and they don't have the skills you have. So we're not going to send them to third. I need an experienced mechanic on third. So they wanted the ability to grab me off first shift and put me on third shift and put me in any trade. So I'm a structural fitter. They want to take me from first shift and put me on third shift to grind paint in the tanks. And that could be 2 months, 2 years, 6 years. So that was something that, you know, everybody felt strongly against. It's, you know, that's one of the biggest things in our union is the seniority. So I've done my time. Why would you send me when you got this guy you just hired? You know, send him to do it. And, you know, the company claimed that wasn't their intent to do it like that, but you know, what their intent is and what they do is two different things.
Right. And why would they change your like why you said that you were a structural fitter? Why would they make you go and paint things when that's like not, you know, that doesn't even make sense from an economic standpoint to use.
A lot of things that they do don't make sense.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the boss for you, you know. I mean, that's what, like, people that aren't in the or like management or sometimes bootlickers, you know, they'll think that unions aren't necessary, and it's actually in fact necessary that management be able to do whatever they want with the workers because they know best and the CEOs know best. I mean, just look at them. They sit on huge piles of cash, you know. Of course that must mean they know better than the workers, but I mean, if you just think about it for more than 2 seconds, and if you've ever worked on a job, you know that your boss makes and management makes stupid decisions that don't even make sense from a cutthroat capitalist perspective. And that's one of them. Just the fact that they would send somebody who's got more than a decade of experience in a certain trade, the fact that they even wanted the option to do that, more than a decade of experience in a certain trade, and throw them into something else, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that you got to take into consideration, though, is what makes financial sense. It may not make financial sense, but it makes perfectly good sense if you're trying to bust up the union. And that's their intent 99% of the time is they'll take short-term losses over long-term gains and having people get out of the union because their seniority is not worth anything anymore once you allow that to happen. So, you know, even though it may not make financial sense in the short term, it does in the long term, because you can guarantee if you had 20 and 30-year guys or girls, ladies, whatever, getting forced to off shifts or getting forced to a toilet detail or something or other like that, they don't see much reason to be in the union any longer. And so that's the law. It's the same thing with General Dynamics. It's the same thing with a lot of these large companies that's been dealing with the machinist union for years. They'll do anything to get the union ran out of that business because they know the machinist union is one of the strongest ones out there. We'll fight harder than, I mean, there's a reason why we're called the fighting machinists, right? You know, we're going to fight tooth and nail to keep our seniority.
Yeah, I think they were definitely trying to weaken our union. I mean, they went after a whole slew of things in negotiations, and what I was feeling was they attacked everything and forced us out onto a strike. And if they backed off a couple of those key things, you know, I think they might have got it. If they would have backed off seniority or backed off subcontractors, you know, everybody's ready to go back to work. I mean, I thought we were going to lose out on one of the two, but we didn't. And I'm fucking shocked.
Yeah. Well, talk a little bit. We talked about the seniority and how important that is. Talk a little bit about the subcontracting, if you could, and what exactly that entails. And then you mentioned that there's a whole slew of things that they went after. You know, talk about some of the other things that kind of stood out to you that they went after as well.
Well, the subcontracting, we already have language in our contract for subcontracting, but they have to go through the joint agreement process, and you know, we usually fight with them there, trying to, you know, come up with solutions on how to avoid subcontracting. And, you know, they went through that process, but they didn't listen to anything we had to say. And they weren't willing to try any of our ideas. They were just pretty much going through the motions of the joint agreement process. And at the end of the day, they brought some in, and in negotiations, they wanted to eliminate that whole process and have the ability to bring in subcontractors without even discussing it with the union to get back on their schedule. But, you know, they make the schedule. We don't make the fucking schedule. So they make the schedule. So they could just, all they'd have to do is say, well, we're behind schedule. So we're bringing up, you know, 500 people from Alabama or Mississippi, and we're going to, you know, we're going to give them their own chunk of the ship to build. And, you know, it would have taken away a lot of our work. And, you know, they still have them here until the end of the year. And already it's not working out for them. We have some in here. They're allowed 10%, I believe it is, of the workforce to have subcontractors. And they've got them up here still till the end of the year. And that was part of the agreement to get us back on schedule. But I don't feel like it's working out for them. There's outfit from down south. I think it's called CTS. I don't know if it's Coastal Trade something. They pretty much go from place to place, you know, as subcontractors, and they're up here screwing shit up already. They're putting stuff together, and we're coming in the next day and cutting it all apart. So the need for the subcontract, I understand what they're looking for, but I don't believe it would ever work out for them. These, you know, they're not getting people that are used to the Navy specs that we have to follow, the, you know, all the safety procedures and stuff like that. The Navy actually came and pulled their hot work permit while we were out on strike, because they're bringing these guys in and they don't know the procedure and they're starting fires in the ship, and the Navy wasn't having it, and they pulled their permit and they weren't allowed to do any hot work while we were out. And that's, you know, that's what we do is hot work. We're burning, we're welding. It's
Right.
You know, it's a big part of it. So when you go grab somebody that just, you know, jumps from place to place to place, they don't understand what we have to do. We have, you know, a process to follow before we start burning, before we start welding. And, you know, you might be able to tell them that when you onboard them, but there's so much shit that goes in one ear and out the other when you bring somebody on, and they're just trying to hurry up and get them in there working. So,
Right. They're not sending their best people.
no, right. And you can tell, like, you know, just looking at them, you can tell, like, if you couldn't find work where you live, I mean, you can't be the greatest employee if you're coming all the way up here to work.
Yeah.
But
And so those folks were actually scabs. They had them in there working while y'all were out on the picket line as well.
yeah, there was a bunch, and they're still in there now, and
Wow.
they definitely weren't made to feel welcome when they crossed our picket line. That's for sure. We had some borderline verbally abusive people out there. So they, you know, and they probably didn't even tell them they were coming up here to do that, because sometimes they pull up to the gate and they get met with a crowd of angry shipbuilders, and their eyes would get real big, like, holy shit, what are we doing up here?
Well, are y'all reaching across the table now trying to get those folks organized? I mean, that's, you know, that to me, that's the next best thing is if you can, you know, if you can talk to them about where y'all were at and where you're at now. And
I don't think that's happened.
yeah, yeah, it's hard to do after somebody's crossed your picket line, but
Yeah. If somebody's going to do it, it probably shouldn't be me.
yeah, I know what you're saying. It's one of those things where you just, we had the same thing. We were on strike a couple of years ago, but, you know, it's the only way to build solidarity is to tell them where they done wrong and how they can do better. And that's kind of what we're doing with the radio show, is just how, you know, and you gotta remember that a lot of these people, you know, coming from the South, they're not from union families. They really have no clue what a union does, and what they hear every day is has to take responsibility for their actions, but at the same time, you got to cut them a little bit of slack and hopefully educate them. And that's what we're trying to do, you know, is educate people to understand what we're doing and what the union's doing. And it's for the betterment of everybody. It's for their betterment as well, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, could you talk to us a little bit about the contract? You know, y'all are back at work now. The strike's over. So, you know, how much were y'all able to win from the strike?
They still have to go through the same process to get this, to subcontract our work. We did give them until the end of the year to keep what they got for subcontractors in here. So, I mean, I guess we lost a little bit, but we kept our same language. Seniority stayed the same. We might have gave them a little leeway. They can still, you know, maybe bring somebody to another shift to do something, but they have to go through, you know, their rep. They really have to prove that that's an absolute need. You know, they can't just go grabbing people and stuff like that. Yeah, we got our signing bonus, which I was shocked. I thought we were going to come back. We were going to lose something, but instead, you know, we got the same pay raise we were going to get on the initial proposal. They did have a $1,200 signing bonus, which to me, that was just to take the bait. So I didn't expect it to be in the second proposal, but we got that also. So that was a surprise to me.
Well, that kind of shows shows that the fact that they needed you back, you know.
They didn't want to admit it. I think somebody higher up came down and told them, you get them guys back to work and you do it now. So.
Yeah. And that really It's got to get to the point where we're going on strike constantly to keep making gains. And that's something that the labor movement in the last 50, 70 years is just, they're not there yet. But like Jacob said earlier in the interview, you're beginning to see it. You're beginning to see it a lot more than what you did in the past. So you feel like y'all's, it's always difficult whenever you come back off a strike. You know, everybody's kind of mad. It divides some. Is your entire group still fairly solid after coming back?
I would say for the most part. I mean, we do have some, you know, you're always going to have your sour people. And the thing is with social media and stuff like that, they have all these platforms to bitch and, you know, tear us up a little bit, and it sucks because everybody sees it. So, you know, you got one dickhead with a sour taste in his mouth, and he's on there running his face. And then you have all these new employees reading that and seeing it. You know, we need to do better and spend a lot more time educating the newer mechanics, you know, because you do have your, you know, your sour apples out there, you know, damaging it. But I think for the most part, everybody's good. We just, you know, we need to harness the solidarity that we gained out of this and get going.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think what a lot of people don't realize is how heart-wrenching it is to go. You know, a lot of the folks, I've been in negotiations with on this contract 3 different times, and people have no clue how heart-wrenching it is to make those decisions, you know, to reject a contract, you know, even if you think it's in everybody's best interest. And a lot of the younger folks are fairly flippant about it and think it's, you know, it's something that is taken lightly, and it's not, you know. And I don't know what you got to do to educate them. We're the same way here, you know. Hopefully, I know everybody has to work. Everybody's working as much as they can, but
I mean, I
definitely need to do a little bit more
want to
educating.
form a committee to do it.
Say that again.
I'd like to form a committee to do it of young machinists that get it, and they need to be of a certain age, you know, so they can be relatable. You know, it sucks, but sometimes you got an older mechanic go out there, talk to these younger guys, and you know they don't respond as well. But if you put somebody that can relate to them a little better, and they listen a little better.
Right.
I think after all this, they'll probably listen a little better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Sorry, Jacob.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, in 20 years they'll completely understand. Right now it's hard to see, but in 20 years they'll know exactly where you were at, and they'll be doing the exact same thing for the fresh ones coming in then.
Yeah. So, was there anything else? Was there anything else that you wanted to make sure that that you put out there as far as the lead up to the strike, how the membership reacted to it, how the leadership of the union reacted to it, maybe how your employer reacted, and then the resolution, coming back into work, accepting the contract? Yeah, you know, anything kind of along those lines that you wanted to make sure that you said?
You need to be prepared, whether or not, you know, you're going to go on strike or not. You should definitely be prepared either way. You know, there's going to be people looking for help. There's going to be people looking for information. There's going to be people looking for work. There's going to be people looking for food, you know, anything like that. You should absolutely be ready to go. And we had a plan, and none of us really took it seriously, but either way, we had that plan, and there was things on that plan that we did. There was stuff on that plan that we didn't do. There was stuff that we did that we didn't plan to do, but we did have a plan, and we had all the info. People that needed work, we identified jobs for them so they could get to work. You know, we encouraged people to, you know, talk with their mortgage companies and, you know, try to get them to forgive their mortgage payments for a couple months. We had, you know, people donating. We had locals donating to us. We had, you know, we received a lot of help from a lot of different places and a lot of support from a lot of different places. And I think it's because, I mean, I wouldn't say we were even ready, but we got ready real quick.
Right. That's great. It's good that y'all were able to make the preparations, even if it had to happen pretty quick.
Yeah.
David, did you have anything else you wanted to ask him?
No, I just extend my deepest thanks for you coming on, but more importantly, for what y'all done for the labor movement and for the machinists union in general, because, you know, it's those sacrifices that builds power, not just with y'all, but with us as well. You know, every time somebody reads about that, especially the CEOs of these companies, it sticks in the back of their mind that who's next. So, you know, my solidarity certainly throughout that entire time and moving forward, but an extreme thanks from us, because we'll be going into contract negotiations in about 1.5 years, and I hope you know, we can use not only our strike on the last contract, but y'all's strike as well as leverage against our company as we're going forward. And that's, you know, that's what it's all about. Is a lot of people don't realize it, but that's the entire purpose of the union, is to build off of each other and it form one big circle, not just everything for us, but everything for as many people as we can get involved.
Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.